Have you ever been asked whether you'd like to gift aid your donation to a charity and wondered what does that mean? Most people are aware that gift aid donations mean that the charity can get some more cash, but how does that work and why does this system exist? Now, gift aid was introduced in the Finance Act 1990. It came into force for donations from the 1st of October 1990, although at that point it was only available for gifts of over £600. Now there isn't a de minimis, and it means that charities can claim from HMRC basic rate of income tax on any donations that are gift aided as a top-up. Let me walk you through a very basic breakdown of why this measure was introduced. I remember when this was first explained to me, I found it quite interesting and useful to understand. So if you think of a typical employee, for example, they earn, let's say, £100 of income. Now, on that £100 of income, they are going to have to pay some tax. They're going to have to pay, let's say, for argument's sake, basic rate of tax, which is at 20%. When they receive their £100 of earned income, they don't receive £100, they receive £80. Now, if somebody wanted to donate their whole £100 of effort to a charity, they don't just have to work £100 worth of time, they have to work more because they're having tax deducted on it. So gift aid really is the way that the government uses to make it possible for people to donate that full £100 without having to then work some more to get to the £100 position. I hope you're following me. So when that person receives their £80, they can send it to the charity, and that gets topped up to the original £100 of what they've actually earned, their gross earnings, by the charity. Now, the charity, that's great, they can claim that 20% extra. There is also a knock-on effect for the donor to make charitable donations more appealing to taxpayers. And that knock-on is that you can claim as a taxpayer some basic rate tax relief. Now, this is only going to be applicable if you're not just a basic rate taxpayer. It's going to be applicable if you are a higher or a top rate taxpayer. These donations can extend or do extend your basic rate band for tax purposes. Now, that basic rate band isn't just going to be extended by that £80 of cash that you've given over perhaps to that charity. It's actually going to extend by the gross amount of the donation, that £100 of donation. So instead of having your £100 top slice of your income taxed at, say, 40% as a high rate taxpayer, that £100 is now going to be taxed at 20%, so you're going to have £20 of deduction for yourself. So that £80 donation to a charity for a higher rate taxpayer actually only costs you £60. Makes it quite an attractive thing to do. There are also some other tax benefits of donating to a charity. One of those is that it does affect the threshold for child benefit purposes. It also affects the threshold for where your personal allowance is withdrawn, so at the £100,000 of income. So it's really good to consider these things as part of tax planning, especially if you're somebody who makes regular donations to a charity. Now, the most common question that I get asked about gift aid is, what records do I need to be able to claim on my tax return? And this is an excellent question. First of all, it's probably useful to consider what records the charity have to keep. Now, a charity can accept oral confirmation that you're a taxpayer to be able to claim the relief from the government. Now, they are supposed to then write that down, but it doesn't have to be something signed by you for them to be able to claim it. For you to be able to claim it, ideally, you would have some kind of written record. Lots of us use sites like Just Giving. They usually send you an email receipt, and that's absolutely fine for the purposes of claiming on your tax return, that email receipt. A practical point would be to pop those into a separate file in your inbox and then send them over to your advisor when they ask for your tax return information, and that will make that exercise really nice and easy to claim all your gift aid. If you fail to get a receipt, okay, so in an ideal world, you'd have a receipt for everything. But if you have a bank statement that shows what you've paid, if in some way you think if the revenue were to ask you about it, you could substantiate your claim, then it's worth popping that onto your tax return. If you're somebody who really isn't very good at keeping any records whatsoever, but you know that every year the school does a charity thing, or one of your friends is going to run a marathon, and you're quite sure that you remember filling in a form and giving them 50 quid, an estimate and reasonable estimate on your return will suffice. Again, if the revenue were to acquire, they could ask for some receipts and some extra information from you, but in the first instance, if you're quite happy with the thought that you have made a donation, then by all means include a reasonable estimate on your return. So I have 2 top tips when it comes to charitable donations that you're making. One of them is just don't forget to write them down for your tax return. Make sure you do include them, because that tax relief is actually really good to pop onto your return. And the second one's really the opposite, is that if you are not a taxpayer, if you are earning under your personal allowance, or if all of your income falls under different allowances. So for example, your income might be slightly over the personal allowance, but the bit over it might come under your dividend allowance, so you would have no tax. Then don't claim gift aid. If you do, what will happen on your tax return submission is that the revenue will ask for the effective 20% that the charity has claimed back from you. So make sure you don't tick that box if you're not a UK taxpayer. I hope you found this webinar interesting. I certainly find gift aid an interesting area, and I love to see it on my clients' tax returns. If you have any questions, please drop me an email.